Welcome. Hello, sexy soul. How are you doing? Welcome to Weird and Woo Woo. I'm weird. We all get a bit woo woo, okay? It's kind of in the title. We're gonna catch up on some of our readings. Just FYI, I have been MIA because there's been a lot of shit going on. And first we entered into summer, and where I live has decided to not let up on the weather emergencies. We have been lambasted by Mother Nature like it's not even funny. So much so that yet once again, we had major flooding yesterday, and of course, my living room flooded because yay. Why the fuck not? On top of that, my child just spent a whole fucking week in the hospital. Like, a whole week. Like, had to stay in there because whatever condition he had could cause acute renal failure. And so when I tell you, whoa, it just is. Okay? So life has been lifing, and I did record like 2 readings before that. And I never uploaded either one of them. It just felt like after a few days of it not being online, I felt like it was a moot point. Like we had moved beyond it or something. It just something after those readings just felt like they weren't supposed to be out there, and or they weren't necessary, or whatever. Anyways, so we're getting our shit together. Specifically, I am, and I am looking at the universe as like, you're gonna help out, right? No more lifing. I don't know how successful that's gonna be, but so we're gonna go ahead and pull some cards today. So much love. I don't know where that fucking came from because I don't. Okay, did you notice that I'm a millennial? Yeah, because I don't know what the fuck this shit or this shit. Like, why? Wait, what is it they do? They do some weird shit. I don't know. Anyways, so breathe in, breathe out. Let's get started. Okay, I feel like I've already said this. I have not said this. FYI, you're a sovereign being. You get to determine if, how, when, where, why any of these messages might apply. So, whatever you do, don't Cinderella shit to make it fit, okay? Alrighty. Um. Messenger Oracle deck. Alright. This is upside down. Old school. That's how I used to. I guess it's not old school because I still do it. But I used to be really big at, like, I would go, instead of going like this, I would do this. I don't know. In order to, like, get my deck back together. So. Alrighty. Let's see. No clue where we're going with this. I'm just coming along for the ride. Seek your destiny and follow the moon. And then we have make the sacrifice. Okay. So follow the moon is giving me a bit of like, when you're in a very dark place and how the moon sheds light on something, it's given the energy of things like certain areas. Okay, thank you, Spirit. Whatever is revealed is where you're meant to be focusing. Don't worry about the aspects, details, or areas that have not been highlighted for you. So you feel like there's this thing. There's a really weird bug on my window. It's trying to get in. He's mad. And you're like, yeah, but what about these things? Like somehow you think that these other aspects that you can't see, that you don't understand, you're not clearly, that just aren't as clear to you, matter. And they're like, don't worry about that shit. We've shown you this. This from your intuition has come through. You see it crystal clear. Focus on that, not on these other things. Seek your destiny. We say it over and over and over again. At least in my collectives, for those that I read for, we don't do the whole, and you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? You can. But I don't do the whole chosen ones, even though I know that there are individuals that are that come with certain purposes and destinies and etc. Right? That can play very impactful roles. My thing is that you are not chosen. Okay, you have to choose. So, like, as an individual, you choose your destiny, not the other way around. Like, you're chosen for this destiny, and it's like, and whether you like it or not, you have to do it. No, you have to opt in, right? Like, a horse can be led to water, but you can't make them drink. So, spirit can pull you towards this and take you on along a path that prepares you and opens you up to your destiny. But you ultimately have to choose your destiny. Okay? That's why fate and destiny are so intricately intertwined. So you have to go after it. It's something that you have to choose. Okay? And I feel as if something has been highlighted for you. Something has been, I think you know, but there's a million questions of how, what about this, what about it? And they're like, don't worry about the shit you don't know. Focus on that which you do know, that is clear to you, that you feel drawn to, right? Follow your intuition. Your guidance will show you. Your mind is focused on all these other things. You don't need to be focused on that. And then make the sacrifice. And I feel like they intentionally chose this to trigger somebody, because the idea of sacrifice, I feel like somebody's beyond it. They're like, I'm done. I'm not sacrificing another solitary thing. But there's a story behind that, right? Your version of what sacrifice is, despite what the definition is, you add meaning to the definition with the stories that you hold about what sacrifice really means. And sacrifice to you means giving up an aspect of yourself, forsaking the self to a certain degree, forgoing your wants and desires, and like putting you on the back burner in order to be able to do that. And that's not what sacrifice means. There's nothing about you stepping into your destiny that requires you to forsake any part of you or your wants or your desires, right? Make the sacrifice, I feel, is more your willingness to embrace discomfort. It's something more energetic than it is self-sacrificial, right? It's not asking you to compromise a boundary. That's not the kind of sacrifice they're talking about. In fact, I think that that's what you're focusing on. And they're saying, or you have focused on, they want me to reiterate that you have. They just showed me all of these are at night. These are all night, at night, in the dark. There's a lot to this that's in the dark, and it's like you're navigating something you haven't done before. I want to say you might have dabbled in, but the full on taking this on and stepping into it like it's a portal is it's not. You haven't done it in this way to this degree with this intent and purpose, with this understanding, with this level of discernment, with this level of connectedness and alignment. So I think this is talking about something that the ego wants to say is a sacrifice. Wants to, this is a part of the story. This is a part of the story. There is, because certain things aren't answered, other things are not answered. And so it's kind of like there's a story added that there's going to be a sacrifice, and that's not true. I want to say the sacrifice is your willingness to move through the unknown instead of having to have all the answers. Ooh, that's the sacrifice. Like you're anticipating it's some shit like, like it's gonna be immensely hard work, and I'm gonna have to take time away from my family, or I'm gonna have to take time away from this, or I'm gonna have to abandon the things that I love, and like it's gonna have to be such hard work that it's like, I'm being exhausted. Like I don't know. There's some very 3D world reality type of stories that you're putting to it, and they're like, no, not at all. What are you talking about? You just have to sacrifice the need to know everything. And that grates on your, I feel like somebody has been told by spirit, and you may have heard this in other readings, that you're trying to control too much. And they've realized that's not the right word, because you have all these stories of what that is. And you're like, I'm not controlling it. You know what I mean? And you didn't really understand. You would get tripped up on the notion of not needing to know all the stuff, because like I feel like they kept saying you needing to know is you trying to control. And it's not really the case. You know, there's something that I talk about in my family where it's like when I have like a rough draft of something, the some kind of semblance of an outline, an understanding, um, all of it by the end of whatever it is that I'm doing can be changed. For whatever reason, when I have like just a bare bones outline, I'm able to move forward and be malleable and adaptable, um, because I feel like I have a starting point. But when I don't have anything at all, it feels chaotic, and I have like this level of unrest. And so it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of, it has something to do with, that's why you want to know. You kind of want to know. But if it changes, I don't think that you're attached to everything happening exactly. In fact, I don't even think that you're looking for every single detail across the board. You're just looking for like markers or pinpoints, of like milestones or things to kind of like gauge towards. And if it changes and you go on a million detours, you're fine. But it's like, again, it's that preemptive outline of something. And you're like, just give me a starting point. Just point me in a direction, and Um, so you've been told that that's you trying to control something, and in no way, shape, like if you wanted to fucking control something, you behave completely differently. It is not about you wanting to control shit. It is about owning and understanding your human aspects and what creates motivation and drive and follow through for you, and saying, okay, let's do this. And so there's some kind of like grating and like uh, irritation, in my opinion, that has happened between you and spirit, because you're like, I'm not trying to, like, it almost created a discord. And so it's like, they're like, let's abandon the term control. All we want you to do is focus on this. And while your brain may have questions, I feel like it can simply be answered as spirit going, all that's well and good, but we're going to narrow your focus down. Don't worry about all of that, because it's easy to get distracted and to feel pulled in 20 different directions when you have also all these other things to look at. Just focus on this, which is why I feel like something has been revealed. Something has come to the surface. Something, the light of the moon is shining on something for you. And they're like, just start there. And again, you really want just kind of like bare bones outline, and they're just like, that's the one thing that this is going to request of you, is to sacrifice your need to know anything that is not already highlighted before you. I feel like they're saying if you focused on the one area or two areas or whatever area that we have highlighted for you, or that your intuition and your knowingness is highlighting, that you wouldn't, you like, I feel like there's, but what about this, and what if, and what if, and this and that, like there's all kinds of like potential scenarios and blah 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 blah, and they're like, those are, you're playing in other timelines at that point. You are expanding yourself and broadening yourself open to other timelines of potentialities and different things like that. And they're like, we want you to focus on what we've given you, what you see before you, because otherwise you spread yourself thin and open yourself up to other timelines, and ways in which some. And so they're like, it's best for us to give you this one at a time. So you are going to be in the dark to a certain degree. I don't think that you are as nearly troubled by that. I think that you've come accustomed to that, actually. Um, but I do think that if you pay attention to what is highlighted, what isn't, and what is still left in the dark, you don't have time to spend playing in those fields of possibilities. Like, you're going to be so consumed with this, and I want to say entrenched, immersed. There you go, immersed in it. That the other things that you don't know, you don't have enough time for. I don't even want to say that. It's not that you don't have, like, you just won't focus on it. I feel like once you start doing this, your time will feel also different, malleable. You become so immersed in it that you're oblivious. There we go. To the things that you don't know. I knew I was going to get to it at some fucking point. Okay. Took long enough. Okay. All right. So let's talk about it then. Since this is like you're going into your destiny, seeking your destiny, you have to walk on the path that's lit for you. What are you showing them? They said almost. So we're going to pull that one in a little bit. Okay. Sacred Traveler Oracle. Mm. Miracles. Expect the wonders to emerge. See, but I feel like if these are unknowns, and that's exactly what they're like, I feel like they're like, it's funny because I think this will trigger you to kind of like try to play in the unknown and ask questions and da da da. And they're like, don't, because then you'll start opting into like only focus on this one area. Um, expect wonders to emerge. Miracles. There is no hows or whys or scenario. Like you're meant to not know. Answers are within. Sorry, it's a little like, rejuvenating rain. They want you to clear some things out. They want you to clear your energetic field. And the fact that taking shelter and you know what, okay, we got the moon, which is your intuition. There's something that is absolutely highlighted for you. I feel like saying there's also like I know something's going to happen. And all the unknowns of it you shouldn't focus on other than just the taking shelter in the fact that you know it will. You don't know why you do, you just do. And I think that that's something that you've been through several scenarios, or I would say over the last year to like 6 months also very specifically, where you just, everything didn't look like it was going to go a certain way, but for whatever reason you knew it would. Like you just knew things would, even though it almost seemed like spirit left it to the last second that something would work out, and it irritates. It's irritating. But the idea is that to really lean on just the knowing that things are, I don't know how, I know, but everything's gonna be just fine. Like this is exactly what's gonna happen. Really lean on that. Okay. And clear your energy of anything else that could be obstructive, interfering, right? Because it specifically says clear the past to heal the present. And so, and that might be also I want to know the answers to certain things. I'm asking for this because there's something about you having, why do I feel like you were in a scenario where there was something highlighted to you, you asked a question about, like you asked all the other questions, and you felt like you got the answers to those questions and nothing panned out the way these other things, all the other little shit that it's like, don't worry about that, focus on this, kind of like the knowing that something would happen, and you asked questions or details about this quote unquote thing, and discord happened because things changed. You weren't as malleable because you expected all these little things. And so you stopped focusing on a particular thing that was meant to happen to you because you noticed discrepancies, thank you, Spirit, in all the little details of something. And as a result, it ended up veering you off of a particular timeline. It put you on a different one. And so they're kind of like, you got to get rid of the idea. We don't want to disrupt the path that you're on. So that's one reason for not knowing these other little things. The second thing is get back into relying on when your intuition tells you something, it's real. Because you relied so much on the evidentiary details unfolding in a certain way that it created you questioning your intuition, what you knew to be true, what was given to you in a download, things like that. And so that's part of clearing the past. The idea is, I think that created some kind of, again, it created distrust between you and your inner voice, you and spirit, you and your magic, your intuition, your abilities. And so the only way to clear that out, we've been talking about this a lot lately, is the embodiment process, where something new has to happen in order to reprogram or recode at a deep cellular level how things work. Because right now, you're operating from a stance of, or you have in the past, of you've always wanted those little certain, not every single little detail, just certain ones to give you kind of like a starting off point. And that was all well and good until those little details became everything to you and became your marker for whether you could trust yourself, whether you could trust the universe, whether you could, you know what I mean? And they became more important than the path that you were on and what you were heading towards. And it derailed you. And so they're like, we've got to redo this. We've got to do it the right way. So we're not giving you all these details. You have to focus on what you know to be true, and you have to move towards it. Because we got to get rid of that programming that snuck its way in of distrust. Got to get rid of it. This is the Azathoth Tarot. Death and rebirth. And the Knight of Pentacles. This is doing things the right way, the right and correct way. Okay? This is wiping of a slate and something being reborn. And I feel like you're being reborn back into yourself. It's almost like we've talked about this before, where people are kind of like picking up where they left off. And we had talked about this before, where people were pulled from one timeline and put onto another, and they're going back, almost like back in time. So you're going back to the point before this other type of programming snuck in and took you off your path. So the slate is being wiped clean so that it can be reprogrammed with the right coding, the right energy, so that you can approach something. And I think, again, like you might be repeating something from the past, approaching something you should have probably come into before this, but you got derailed, and this is what happened. And this is about moving in the right direction, in the right manner. It's in integrity. The Knight of Pentacles is all about integrity, words, actions, and energy all matching. And so you have to get back into trusting your inner divinity. And they're giving me a sense that you've done this before, though. So you have experience where you focused on what you did know and you trusted it and you moved forward. And even if you knew details, if they were changed and different, that was fine. You didn't care. Something happened along the way where everything had to be exactly, precisely, just right as it was, as you envisioned it or as you were told it. And so it was like you hung on to little tiny aspects that didn't matter. You got hung up on stuff. And that you didn't used to be that way. That the overall energy of your intuition, your knowing, your higher self, your soul, your inner divine, whatever you fucking want to call it, it was paramount to everything. So we have the Page of Swords, but it was in reverse. I don't usually do reversals, but there's something about you may not receive all the information that you want. This is about holding information back rather than getting it and sharing it. But moving forward nonetheless. There's a focus. It's forcing you to focus. Much like where the moon is lighting your path and only on that. And that is how you will get to your desire, your wish. Something that you've been wanting. So it's the you're not sacrificing control because you're obviously still in control no matter what, because you have to choose your destiny, right? Ultimate control, guys. You have the ultimate say. Um, you're just sacrificing needing to know everything. That's the only sacrifice. And it compromises you, your wants, your desires, your level of fun. You're not having to sacrifice anything about yourself. In fact, you've operated in this energy before where you didn't need to know everything, you just believed. So when they're silent, you're staying focused on the path that is clear before you, on what is clear, what is true. All the other things and details you're asking about, those are variables in this story, and you don't need to know the variables because those will potentially change. You only focus on what is right, what is true, what is clear, the path before you. This is about moving forward. Eight of Cups. This is how you move forward to your Nine of Cups, to your wish fulfillment. This is also how you move. I feel like it's going to free you from something. So there's something that has encumbered you, and it's tied to the details, the bullshit that suddenly became more important than the one crystal clear thing that you knew and you know. Um, there's a level of freedom and independence that comes along with moving forward. Moving away from those things that don't serve you. I don't know to what extent again, like I said, you I feel like you still do to a certain degree operate where it's like I want to know these things just so I can get to going, so I can get to moving. Um, but you didn't always need that. And there may have been a level of instability in your life that led you to really rely on those things. Um, but you used to not need that, and they want you back in that energy. Because I feel like honestly, that's the only way they'll ever get back to the place where they give you all those little details again. And it's not even all the details. It's like little landmarks on your path. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think that's all you're probably going to get are little landmarks on your path versus every little detail. So that's what it is. You went from needing landmarks to wanting and desiring. Like if you didn't reach one of those little landmarks, something happened in your life where it's like you suddenly needed more and more and more and more and more, and you were looking more at all these little things instead of the path right ahead and knowing the knowingness of something that was going to be and transpire and happen, occur, that kind of thing. Um, and so your faith in yourself and your knowingness and your belief in the magic of things um, got tainted. That's just what it is. It got tainted. So you can't expect that you will, if you begin to ask information about aspects or details that are nothing more than a variable along your path, you won't get an answer. You will not get a response. Because you know what you should be focusing on, and that's the only thing you should be focusing on. Period. Point blank. Okay. Period. Point blank. So if you ask and you feel like you don't know the answer to something, it's because it's not fucking important and not what you're supposed to be focusing on, and really isn't pertinent to knowing and moving forward. It actually will act as an aspect that will slow things down. So if you're used to them breadcrumbing you and you getting like little aspects along the way to help satiate you so that you can believe, okay, yeah, it's still going. They're not going to give you that anymore. there's something very big that is crystal fucking clear, and that the path towards is crystal fucking clear, that has immense clarity, and it is the only thing you should be focusing on. Okay? But from it, you get your wish fulfillment, you get your freedom, you get your independence. Um, there's a sense of autonomy and sovereignty, like gaining that as a result. So, all right, I'm going to leave it there. I think that's enough for this message. I hope it finds whoever it is meant for. Hope you have a fantastic and wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next